Hello, how are you all doing? Welcome everyone to a new Rockbot class. Today we're going to look at the final robot of Level 2. If you've made it this far, it's because you've already seen all the topics or all the videos related to what we're going to explain today. So, throughout the course of Level 2, what we've done is learn how to use each section, and today we're going to bring it all together in a single robot. That is, we're going to see how to use web commands with Excel, with email, that's from Level 1, and then we'll integrate everything related to FTP, databases, legacy, and XML. Alright, let's get started. First of all, what this robot is going to do is basically download an XML file from an FTP. Now, I'll show you we're not going to actually run the FTP since it's a public server, and, well, there are people or others constantly uploading and deleting files because it's a public server. So, we'll see that part disabled. But the idea is, the purpose of this video is for you to understand how to build a robot using all the elements and tools we've covered throughout the course. Alright. So, as we said, it's going to download a file from FTP, an XML file. That XML file will contain information that we're about to look at, and then, with that information, it will process it to fill out an Excel sheet. At the same time as it fills out the Excel sheet, it also completes a form, which we'll also take a look at. As that form is being filled out, we'll get a submission status, and we'll also record that in the Excel sheet. The Excel file will be saved inside a folder, and at the same time, all the data that we filled out in the form will be sent to a database. Later, using Legacy, we'll check that this file exists in our folder, since we need it to be there in order to then email the result obtained during the process. Alright, so let's get started. First, let's take a look at the XML we're talking about, which is the XML in question. The data it handles are about people, in this case, famous people. We have 3 pieces of data, or rather, 3 sets of data, where we need to get the phone number, then the name, the email address, and a message they've left. So, first let's position ourselves in the FTP bot. As I previously mentioned earlier, the FTP commands will not be executed because we are currently running on a public server, which means direct execution of such commands is restricted for security reasons. Alright, so, since they're not being executed, that's why they're disabled. Okay, if the connection is correct, here we're going to perform a validation. Notice the validation we're using, it's the inverse validation we saw at the end of course number 1, where we check if an error exists, and if so, we close any connections that might still be open. If it doesn't find an error, then it continues with the execution. Alright, if the download of the file we're working with is successful, then it moves on to the XML bot, and we'll see what happens. Okay, the XML bot. What it does, let's take a look here, is it works specifically with the downloaded file. If we run it, we'll see that we already have all the information here. Notice, as we've seen throughout the course, that we need to, in some way, locate the data that's relevant or that really matters to us in order to work with it. In this case, we can see that the data is right here, right? I mean, inside this list. So, remember that you have to go into what would be the first element of the dictionary and then into the second element of the dictionary to finally get to the list. And that's what we're going to do. Alright, so we're going to work with the XLX file so we don't have to use the Excel application, and we'll do the validation, we'll count the rows. When we count those rows, we're going to add one because we want to write. Remember that. We're going to get the corresponding number of rows and we're going to write below. At the same time, we're going to open the browser and we're going to see which form it is that I was mentioning to you. This is the form where we're going to enter the information. Notice that I extract information from the XML. Not only do I send the information to Excel, meaning I fill out the corresponding Excel sheet, but I also fill out the web form. Then I submit that form, and through a message that will appear, look, if I do a quick test now, through this message that pops up when I click the submit button, I'm going to check that the form has been sent correctly. So, in this way, I can assign a status to each item in Excel, meaning I can have a ready report showing, well, which data was sent to the form and which wasn't, for whatever reason. Alright, so now let's do what I mentioned earlier about the XML variable from the dictionary. Let's go into fmo.us. Let's go into people. If we run this, what we'll have in data is the following. Take a look. We already have the list of items to go through. So, with this list, we're going to use it to get the information into each variable. Notice that the value dictionary, basically when iterating, I use the data variable and assign it to the Vela variable. So, from each element, I'm going to separate the information, that is, I'll be sorting the information I want into different variables. Notice that we do this with the phone number, the name, the email, and also with the message. Then, we write in the corresponding row in column A, because the name is in column A. Then we do the same in column B with the email. Then we do the same in column C with the cell phone or phone number, and then we do the same in column D with the message. After writing in Excel or filling in the information in Excel, we're going to go to the hot web. On the hot web, basically what the robot is going to do is fill out the form, take a look. I use the form's ID to fill it in with the corresponding information or variable. So, I repeat those steps for the number of data entries I need to input. That is, I enter here, I enter there, and I also enter here. And what I'm going to do is send. Notice that here we click on the object that has the ID action, and with that, what I'm basically doing is sending the submit button to the form, so I enter the information. I perform the validation. The validation is basically this. I extract a text, which is the text I mentioned to you, this one. I extract that text and check if data sent is found in the variable info. That is, I store that text in the variable info, and with Python what I say is, okay, data sent is in that variable. If that's correct, it means the form was submitted successfully, and if not, it means the form wasn't submitted properly. Alright, with that data, I'm going to go to the database spot where I make the connection, in this case to MySQL, but you can do it with whatever database you have access to, that you have permissions for, and that you can work with whichever one you feel most comfortable using. Everything is handled in the same way. In that database, as we saw in the previous examples, I'm going to have a table where I'll need to insert all the information using a query. So I use that information, name, email, phone number, and message to enter it into the database or to process it however you want. You can fill it in, you can create the table from scratch, you can work with an already existing table, you can insert that information, modify the information that already exists, you can delete the existing information and put in this new information. You can do it however you want. remember that you have the database videos for each database you can work with, so you can use them as examples. In this case, this is just for demonstration purposes, but I used MySQL, and with MySQL you can actually enter information using the insert into query, and there you put the name of the table, in this case form, and all the corresponding data. Then remember to close the connection so that there isn't any application running in the background. You also need to do the proper validation, and that way we'll continue with the execution. Alright, if you notice, after running the XML, what we're going to do is go back and see that after executing the XML in the FTP bucket, we're going to save that Excel or that XLSX, And to have the information saved, notice that here I don't have any path entered, but instead I have a variable. Inside the variable, I have the path. Now let's take a look. Alright, if we go to the main robot, since the FTP has already finished, we'll see here that we have exactly the paths where we're going to save things. We have the path where we start, where we take the XLSX, and then we have the path where it's going to be saved. Then, as we said, after running the database robot, we move on to the legacy robot, where it's going to do a quick search. It's going to check if, through the terminal, it's going to do a search in the folder that we specify, here. If that file exists. Notice that here we've set the word, which is what it's going to use to perform the search, and in that we put exactly the name of the Excel file we want to look for. Which, actually, excuse me, here it's WebinRS, because I'm going to look for the processed one, the worked on Excel file. If it exists, I don't do anything, but if it doesn't exist, I repeat the search a certain number of times until that file is found in the folder, since I need that file to be in the folder in order to send it by email. Alright, you can also check this, obviously, in the documentation and also in the legacy robot, since we already made a whole robot dedicated to that. But anyway, to keep it from getting too long and heavy, this is just for demonstration purposes. Okay, then, once we're done with legacy, we move on to the email robot, where we do all the necessary configurations with the proper validations, of course, and take a look here. Here we basically specify who we're sending it to, who is sending it, the title or subject, the information or body, or any detail we want to add, and the path save variable, which is basically the variable where I have the finished report ready to be sent. Alright, that was today's example. You can obviously work on it even more, make it with a lot more details, with including all the best practices. Remember that best practices should always be followed. And, well, congratulations on making it this far, and I'll see you in level 3. Best regards.